Okay, I will call to order the Board of Directors meeting for Thursday, August 15th. I'm Jen Lautenbach. I'm the Vice Chair and will be leading the meeting in the boardroom as Allie is online. So do we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Do we have board member Donovan? Absent at the moment. Hawkinson?
Here.
Fortice?
Here.
Lautenbach?
Here.
Lilliquist?
Here.
Mayor Stewart, would you like to test your mic?
Here. Sadu is absent. Stewart?
Here.
Thank you. Williams?
Here.
And Darwin is absent. Thank you.
Thank you. We now have, under employee recognition, a 20-year service award for Becky.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so it's my pleasure to introduce Becky Kelly on her 20th year here at WTA. Big milestone. I've been there myself, and I know what kind of resilience that takes to come into work every day for 20 years. So congratulations for that. So in case you don't know what Becky does, she works obviously in planning. And she's basically responsible for our service planning arm. She does a lot of the background work you may not realize with the data, with the databases that we have that run the systems. And she's also responsible for our customer information. So all the transit guide information, the maps, and everything else. So she does some great work. She brings together two really disparate kind of focuses, the data side and also she's really talented in the graphics side too. So we're really excited about what kind of talent she brings to the agency. So I was going to mention that she started in 2004, and in 2004, 2005, that's when we started our Go lines. And at that time, we grew very quickly in ridership. I think we increased, I was looking back, like 70%. And I don't think it's much of a coincidence that that was the same time that around the time that Becky started, that we actually really were performing very well at that time. So just want to recognize that. Yeah, and I'd say that the other thing that Becky brings to the planning department and the agency is this conscience, this historical perspective. And a lot of times in the planning department, we're coming up with generating new ideas, and she'll gently tell us that, yeah, we've done that before, but yeah, I think it's worth looking at again. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that? So we appreciate that about her, that she's our conscience. And so with that, I just, if we can give her another round of applause. Okay.
Thank you.
And you'll hear more from her tonight.
I got two items.
I don't know if you want to say anything, but.
It's been great working with everyone at WTA. I always enjoyed coming to work.
Thank you so much. Citizen communications. If you are a citizen online, if you would please unmute and identify yourself. Not seeing anyone online. Is there anyone in the boardroom that would like to say something?
Well, I'm here to talk about, you're thinking about running the bus line through Rotor down the waterfront.
So that would probably be part of our public hearing. So if you would mind waiting for just a moment. No, none. I will close any written communication unrelated to the public hearing that we received. Okay, wonderful. That being said, we will move on to our public hearing for the temporary waterfront service. Les and Becky are going to give us an introduction, and after that, I will open the public hearing for citizens.
If we go to the next slide, then I think Les is going to introduce it.
Yes. Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay? Good.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, so I just want to take a moment before turning it over to Becky and the team that does all the work to just provide a little foundation and background. First off, just from a mindset standpoint, I want to really just thank staff, because staff was looking at this waterfront service for our service development plan for future for next June, and identified a need that was going on currently, and said, hey, we should really think about a temporary service now to get us through to next June, presuming the board would approve a permanent service. And that takes a little bit of a different mindset, and slightly uncomfortable to try something that is new and different. And so I really appreciate staff doing that and taking a little bit of a risk to bring it up and say, hey, let's try to turn to take it out of Hyde where we are now, and let's try to get something to meet a need. So I really appreciate that. It helps show our value proposition and return on investment to the community. So a little bit of the why behind this, as detailed in the agenda item. We started looking at a waterfront service because we knew demand is coming. There's millworks development going down there. There's the board mill development that's planned at the waterfront districts. We know there's visitor boating. We know there's liveaboards down at the port. We know there's activity down there, recreational activity, and so forth. And so could see the current and building wave of commitment. And so the team said, hey, let's take a look at getting out ahead of that wave. And so formed a Tiger team to start looking at a cross-departmental team, bringing together a lot of really good folks to look at things from across fleet operations, marketing, partnerships, finance, all those kinds of things to bring that all together. So they realized that an interim or a temporary service could be needed sooner rather than next summer, and said, hey, let's talk about that now. So with that, I'll turn it over to Becky, and with a lot of thanks for leading the effort. And so Becky, over to you on your 20-year anniversary too.
Okay, the next slide. So what we're proposing is 2 different routes that we could do with 1 bus and 1 driver. So we have that constraint that we could only expand. That's what we have available right now. So we did our best to come up with what we could do with that 1 bus and 1 driver. So there's the 46 Granary, which would go down State Street and down to Laurel to Millworks, and then on Granary Avenue, and then back up. It's just a short loop. And then the longer 47 Harbor would do the same routing, but then continue all the way down to Squalicum Harbor and then back the same way. And if you go to the next slide, you can see this is the schedule that we're proposing. This number of trips is directly correlated to what a driver can do in a shift. So we had that constraint. So that's why we have this schedule. So it alternates between the 46 and the 47, and it's on weekdays, Saturdays, and Sundays available. And this is, as Les mentioned, just to provide some service while we come up with a bigger plan of what we could do longer term. To the residents down at Millworks was the primary driver, but then also to this area that's not currently served.
Thank you.
If I could also hop in just to that, one of the things I was remiss in not mentioning too is on the mindset shift is one of the things that we recognized with our City of Bellingham partners is how do we tie the waterfront with downtown from an economic development standpoint, from a connectivity and a use standpoint. And so the sooner we thought maybe we can get things going, that people can start moving back and forth from the city proper downtown to the waterfront area, that it starts getting people developing transportation behaviors as we work on a longer term service with that. So thought that was a good benefit, as well as working with our Opportunity Council partners to increase service to them as well. And I apologize, I should have said that at the beginning.
Wonderful, thank you. I will now open the public hearing regarding the temporary waterfront services. I believe we have someone in the boardroom who would like to take it.
Yes, I'm Stella Feller. I live at Chuckanut Square in Fairhaven, and I'm a well, WTA is my main source of transportation. And y'all used to have a bus that went that route like 15 or 20 years ago. I had a therapist down near the Bellwether Hotel. And so when she first moved there, there was a bus down there. And then it went away. And that's one of the main reasons I quit going down there, because it was, you know, I had to walk in some bad weather. So anyway, and just a Tuesday night, they had like a health sales pitch seminar down at Anthony's restaurant, and then we got a free meal. But to get down there, it would have been too complicated to, like, we could take the one down to the station, but the number 3 that goes within 2 or 3 blocks of Anthony's, it only leaves at 40 after, and it just did. So what we did, my friend and I walked from the co-op straight down Chestnut, down Rotor, and that took us basically, so it took us, it was a healthy walk, and it took, you know, leisurely stroll, it took us about 45 minutes, I guess. And then we took a cab home because it's too dangerous for women to walk around down there after dark, especially. But it is really growing, so you definitely want this. They're building down there, and a lot of stuff going on. So we really do need this bus, and I was really excited to hear about it, because I was wishing, you know, that you would do it, because I don't want to have, it's expensive having to take cabs back and forth. Not that I plan on going down there a lot, but I'm really glad to hear you all doing this. And I think that with the growth down there, that we're probably going to be traveling down there more than we are right now with everything going on. So anyway, thank you. I appreciate y'all providing me transportation to come out here and tell you all, you know, what I wanted. And I'm sure it's going to happen, because I'm sure everybody wants it. So anyway, I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone online? I see Dan Tucker from Working Waterfront Coalition. If you can, Dan, if you could unmute.
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you so much for considering these line options. This is going to be important not just for the folks that are moving into the board mill project or moving into the Harcourt condominiums, but also for the workers that work along the waterfront. They've never had this transportation or they haven't had this transportation in a long time. And there's several thousand people that work down here that, you know, some of them would love, myself included, not to have to use my car to get down here all the time. So I just wanted to say that there is a lot of support from the working community on this as well. And equity for working class people is often something that gets underlooked in the industry, especially trades and building industries, because a lot of these are further out from towns. And so you can't have bus lines that go out there, or they're long county routes that go out there. So we're in a unique position to boost our working folks along the waterfront that are in these industries that traditionally don't get downtown services. So that will also help vitalize businesses downtown, providing the workers down here with an easy way to go through downtown on their way home. So we support this, and we thank you for considering it.
Thank you, Dan. Is there anyone else online? Ali? Alec Howard?
Yeah, that's me. Hi, everybody. My name is Alec Howard, and I'm a crisis services associate with the Lighthouse Mission Ministries, which some of you may know operate the only low barrier homeless shelter in town. We're getting ready to move down to Holly Street, and there is pretty limited bus service down there. And I just wanted to kind of put it on your radar as you're thinking about this. We only have one bus that comes hourly to our new shelter, and the opportunity to have another bus run by our shelter would be crucial for people who don't have any other form of transportation. So I just thought maybe, you know, something to consider, the 47, if it could go in for one block on Holly Street and double our service in front of our shelter, that would be a huge win for a lot of people. So just wanted to throw that out there, something to think about. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Kevin Coleman?
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you for making this happen. I run Bellingham Sea Feast, and it's really important that we get people on our waterfront to celebrate our waterfront. But not only that, we also have Dockside Market, that is a seafood market that allows people who have EBT and SNAP to come and get seafood. And by having this bus line, this makes it more equitable and inclusive to have this opportunity for people who don't have transportation or are of lower income. So I really appreciate you guys taking initiative this early on before next year to make this happen. And I also agree with Dan and Alec. What do we look like going forward, helping all of our communities, both waterfront and inland. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys doing this.
Thank you. Is there anyone else online that would like to address the board? Oh. Not seeing any, I will make sure. Not seeing any more, I will close the public hearing and open it up for board discussion. Michael.
Yeah, I've got a couple thoughts. First of all, Kevin and Dan, good to see you here. Thanks for your comments. Alec, thanks for reminding us about the Lighthouse mission. There is frequent service on DuPont, which is what, 3 blocks up the hill? So there is something frequent nearby, but I understand your point. I think we had previously had a route that the city of Bellingham subsidized down to the Bellwether around 2010, 2012.
2012,
Okay, so 2012, 2013, I was guessing. And the city stopped supporting it in part because WTA showed us performance numbers that were pretty low. Can you remind me about that? And I believe that route didn't actually go through what we now call the waterfront proper, because the waterfront proper didn't exist. So could you tell me a little more about that previous route, its performance, and maybe talk about the differences now?
Yeah, so that route, it was me going, Tim looked at it, that was long. I was actually here, but Tim looked at the data recently, and it served the Bellwether and then down to cold storage. And it was a more limited schedule than this, and Tim had looked at the red or something.
Oh gosh, I'd have to go back and see, but it was low. It was performance, it was under eight boardings per hour. 8 or 8, yep. Less up to 8. 8 was the maximum boardings per hour is what we found.
Yeah, and I think that with the new waterfront development and particularly Millworks really wanted us to take a look at this again to see how we could provide service, because we do get a lot of requests for the various businesses down there.
It had a different alignment too, as you might recall. It didn't go into the downtown waterfront area on the streets. Couldn't. It went into Bellwether. It went into cold storage. We had a different vehicle too, so we had a smaller vehicle that could make those turns. The vehicle we're talking about here is a 35-foot vehicle. It wouldn't be able to make those same turns, so we can't align it the same way if we wanted to. So it's a larger vehicle than it was back then.
Jen, can you follow up?
Yes.
So that brings me to the next thing. There's at least one comment that asked about service a little further along to Bellingham cold storage. So coming up later is discussion of the service performance report, and we talk about priority populations, but also about priority destinations, work sites, getting people to work. How does this route perform in terms of serving priority populations or priority destinations? And could it be improved if it went to BCS? And is there any way we can get over to BCS and still keep the schedule?
Yeah, so I think the main issue is just where we would turn around. Before we just sort of did like a U-turn in the parking lot. I mean, there's a lot of different constraints within there, and I think we could take a look at the long-term alignment with our Tiger team, which we're going to look at for implementation further down the road. But I think short-term, it was there was a place to turn around right inside where the on Coho Way, just past Coho, that we took a 40-foot bus. It could be a 35 or a 40-foot bus that we could get turned around, and we didn't think we could turn around in cold storage. But I think the stop, they could walk out and around to Rotor, or I'm not sure if there's a way to get through
We also struggled in 2012 with the schedule at that time aligning with the work shifts at VCS. And so we really didn't get very much ridership from VCS at the time. And so I think in this limited schedule as well in the interim, I think the alignment with there would also be tough, but I think there's an opportunity, like say, like Becky was saying, in the June 2025 service change or beyond, as we look at a much broader schedule for the waterfront service. This one's just kind of very limited to the morning and an afternoon. We're looking at a more full day service that might have better alignment with BCS, or at least be able to capture some of the BCS shifts.
Like part of 7 and late shifts that get off after 7.
Yeah, so we're looking at something similar to the Route 1 service schedule, which is more of a 7 to 11, 7 to 11, 7 to 10, so much more of a full day. And so I think there might be some opportunities there to see greater alignment.
I'm fully supportive of this trial.
Kim?
Well, like many of the commenters, I fully support this. I appreciate Michael's inquiry about Bellingham Cold Storage and seeking alignment for employees there. My comment is it's still a significant stretch between Millworks and Gate 3. And I'm wondering if it's feasible. Someone mentioned that this would be in service of some of the liveaboards downtown. Gate 9 by the port offices has a significant number of liveaboards. That's where many of the people that call Swelcom Harbor home live. And so if we could add an interim stop that would be of service, it would be much more accessible for the Bellwether area, for the residents that live at Gate 9. I would just ask that we maybe add that consideration as well. It's in between the Millworks and the Gate 3 stop that you've currently identified.
Thank you. Are these time points or stops?
So these are the time points. So there would be a stop. The access to the Bellwether on the other side of the harbor would be there is a stop right in front of where the port offices are, where we used to have a stop. We already have an ADA pad there. And then you'd get off, and I call it like the touch. You'd go towards the touch tank and then get on the path. There would be your access.
So
Yeah,
Becky,
that's exactly what I was seeking. Okay, that wasn't clear. Thank you.
So there's 3 time points, but how many stops are there?
So there would be stops by Millworks, by the other side of near the granary building, or not as far as that, but where you're exiting on granary. And then we don't have any stops on the railroad side of Rotor because it's not safe. There's nowhere to let someone on or off. And so then there would be stops on Coho, and then at Rotor, and right before the entrance to the Bellwether, and then at just past F Street.
If I could, one other thing to piggyback on that with as Becky's talking about that is to again thank staff, because there were a number of barriers, and rather than look at the barriers as a stop, they looked at it as a way to get around. How do we get through this and still provide that? So looking at, for example, you can't drop anybody off on the railroad side. It's not safe. So how do we do this? How do we still take a chance and still provide access? So I really just, this is a different mindset shift for staff, and I really appreciate them taking a chance on it.
Michael?
So I think we could move to possible board action. You were seeking feedback. In what form would a motion take if we wanted to support this service change?
To approve the temporary service as laid out in the board discussion.
The board support the proposed temporary change to service to serve the waterfront.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please indicate.
Discussion.
More
discussion.
More board discussion?
Why not more? Always
No,
more.
we already discussed.
Yeah, guys.
City of Everest is a little more efficient. Sorry. Any more board discussion with the motion on the floor? You gotta say something now. Thank you. I need to brush up on my Robert's rules, I think. No more, no, there being no further board discussion, I will call for the vote. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And one other thing, just for those who did submit public comments and who kindly appeared today, we really appreciate that. And these comments will also get folded in as we're looking at a more permanent service to bring back to the board later this fall to look at for next June. So a lot of these comments will be they'll be very helpful for those discussions as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We're moving on to board action. F1 is consideration of approval of Whatcom Land Trust letter of intent. Les?
Yes, thank you. So this is a continuation from our discussion back in July, where we signed a non-binding letter of intent with Whatcom Land Trust and the Whatcom Million Trees project to help facilitate acquisition of a couple properties, one near Ferndale, one near Everson, that can be used to preserve, protect, conserve, plant, reforest, restore those properties. This is part of our decarbonization strategy that we had talked about before. This is one line of effort of that to help reduce our carbon footprint. So this is a real helpful part of our decarbonization strategy. So the terms, and I apologize that the agreement came to you late, as this is a unique thing. We're not sure, we can't find another transit agency who's tried something like this. So it's building something from scratch. So I really appreciate Mark Lee, who's on, who took the laboring order on this, and as well as Alex from Whatcom Lee Land Trust, and Michael, who's in the room there, and Alex is online. Michael's from Whatcom Million Trees project, and putting this together, and as we try to do something unique to help the environment and offset our carbon footprint as we're moving through our decarbonization strategy. Key terms on this remain the same as with the letter of intent that the board saw. Propose $150,000, which is budgeted in this year's budget, to help acquire the Ferndale property. If the board approves, that money will go almost immediately to closing with Land Trust to close on that property. And then presuming the board would approve $150 in the budget for next year, that would help acquire the Everson property. One of the key elements from WTA's perspective on this is the carbon sequestration estimates on this. So each of the properties, and Michael will talk a little bit more about it, but each of these properties bring these carbon sequestration estimates with them that we can talk a little bit about on what the equivalency is for those. But that's a key component of this and consideration for our ability to take this action and invest the WTA dollars on this. I think part of my job is to identify to the board where there is risk. This is unique, it's new. State auditors never looked at this. So there is some audit risk as we go forward. Part of our job is to identify the risk, but then figure out how to mitigate that risk and see what risk remains. We feel that we've mitigated risk by doing these carbon sequestration estimates. Michael, through the Whatcom Million Trees project, has a consultant on board who does this kind of work, that is developing what the sequestration estimates would be, which helps with our decarbonization strategy, which our decarbonization strategy nests within Federal Transit Administration requirements, state law, Washington State Department of Transportation, their decarbonization strategies, as well as trying to nest within our local partners at the city and the county, and what City of Bellingham and the county, Whatcom County, and what they're trying to do. So There is a slight risk there because the auditors have never looked at it before, but we think we have adequate and valid consideration for this investment, as well as fitting within the decarbonization strategies and directives from state, federal, and local. So with that, I will pause, see if there are questions, and then I would ask Michael if he could talk a little bit about the carbon sequestration estimates as well.
Michael, if you want to come forward, here's the.
Would you like me to speak now, or were there only for questions?
If there are no questions, then yes, please, Michael.
Okay, great. So I'm Michael Fear, Executive Director of Whatcom Million Trees Project. So one of our roles in this acquisition effort is to do a reasonable carbon sequestration estimation of the two properties. And we've, as Les said, we're working with a local consultant. The firm's name is Climate Sum, and they specialize in that, and they've had several years of experience in doing that kind of work. I just want to say that the numbers I'm about to give you as kind of ballpark numbers are intentionally conservative, and that full reports detailing everything will be available in the coming weeks. So my goal today is just to briefly highlight for you kind of the order of magnitude carbon sequestration benefit that there would be from these two properties. So if you look at the 37-acre forest in the Lake Terrell property, right now that property being largely mature forest, it actually holds about 10,000 metric tons of carbon in it. That's, trunks, all aspects of the tree, soil, root ball area, et cetera. But that's not the real number that's relevant to WTA. What we really want to be looking at is what happens each year forward. Okay, that's the correct way to look at this. And again, order of magnitude, that property will sequester about 100 metric tons of carbon per year. That's on average over the next 50 years. Okay, so 100 is the first number to kind of think about. So then let's look at the Kinney Creek property. That has a much smaller mature forest, about 4 acres or so, mostly conifer. But there's been about a little less than 12 acres of tree seedlings that were planted mostly back in 2013 in the CREP program. So, so that collectively, from this point forward, sequesters about 87 metric tons per year. Okay, so 100 plus 87, that's 187 for the two properties together going forward. And that's without any further plantings or anything, just maintaining the properties as is. So now let's relate this to kind of like WTA real world figures. Okay, 187 metric tons sequestered each year is roughly about the same as 2.5 diesel buses emissions over a year, or about 4.5 hybrid buses of emissions per year. Okay, or there's another way to look at it. It covers the entire annual emissions of all current WTA administration and support vehicles, plus the estimated CO2 pollution from charging 12 electric buses over a year. So it's a pretty significant amount actually per year. And again, these are conservative figures, using the best available science and methodology to do that. And again, the full reports that give you the exact figures will be in the coming weeks. So happy to answer any questions about that if anyone has any.
Mary, didn't you generate our whatever climate report? Yeah, that document. Can you remind me the magnitude of the numbers on there compared to the magnitude of the numbers that Michael's talking about?
Yes. So I have it broken out by vehicle tailpipe emissions was 4,141 metric tons. And then the offset by people riding the bus instead of driving was 1,525. Tailpipe emissions from paratransit is 1,413 metric tons. The support administrative vehicles is 150. And then the van pool is 74 metric tons. And then the offsets for that by people riding van pool instead of driving long distances is 355. And that's just for the vehicles. I do not have the exact numbers of the emissions from our electricity generation.
That's fine. The rough order of magnitude is helpful. Thank you.
And I may add, so when I said 2.5 or 4.5, diesel or hybrid, that was based on WTA's figures, not some national average or something like that.
Kim?
Oh, did I have my hand up? I'm happy to talk. Well, I was going to raise my hand. So I just want to say that, since joining this board, I'm continuously impressed with the way that WTA and staff are seeking to be of service to this community. And I want to express my gratitude for this kind of thinking and approach as a different way of being of service to this community. So I am fully behind this. And if there isn't much more discussion, I would move to accept this agreement.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion?
Yes. I guess I would like, I'm going to vote for this, but in the future, I guess cost per metric ton, and is there metrics out there, and are we in the ballpark of what's real?
What do you mean what's real?
I don't know. Other people must be sequestering carbon somehow. And are there other ways to do this or is this a very cost-effective way? I don't know, but it's worth the experiment to try. But I guess in the future, I'd like to know cost per ton or cost per something.
Cost per tree? No.
Well, and I guess, I'll just throw this out. In the future, we could log it off and redo it and get all the carbon again.
Yeah, it doesn't actually work that way.
I know. Well, if it goes into houses and into buildings, then the carbon is still held.
A certain percentage.
Anyway, just
Michael.
Well, following up on what Scott's saying, one of the reasons why I believe staff and started looking at this and the board was supportive is the cost per ton estimate for fleet conversion.
Yeah,
it's a very expensive process. Maybe there are other ways, equivalent ways, but I think that's very much the point.
Yeah. Okay. Got one up here.
Hey, yeah, this is Alex. I just wanted to say, hey, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Great. Hey, this is Alex Jeffers from the Land Trust. And I just wanted to say thanks to everyone and the staff. This has been, as Les said, this is a unique project, both for the partnership, both for the Land Trust and for WTA. And I think it's been great working together to sort of figure out some of these details with Million Trees and WTA. And just to your point around cost effectiveness as well, I think that's a great point and a great framing, and something, that we think a lot about too, in terms of how do we make sure that we're sort of capturing local benefits and carbon sequestration benefits in the way that's most cost effective. There's, I know carbon credits more generally, where you can sort of purchase things that you aren't attached to and you don't see the local benefits in the same way. And this is one that we're getting those local benefits, as well as the carbon sequestration benefits, without necessarily some of the added costs and complications around the larger carbon market system too, and something that we can really see the benefits on the ground, instead of it being, sending it out into the universe, sort of into the universe, and just trusting that it's happening. We can see it happening in our community, which is something that I really appreciate the benefit of this.
Thank you. Any other board discussion? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second on the floor for approval of the Whatcom Land Trust Letter of Intent. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? There being none, the motion passes.
Thank you very, very much. We will be working with Whatcom Land Trust later today to transfer the money to close on the property that's near Ferndale. So thank you very much. And then if I could also just, in addition to thanking Alex and Michael, Mark Lee and Shonda and Mary have been great thought partners on how do we get this thing done in a unique way and protect WTA throughout. So good team effort. Thank you.
We will now move to consideration of approval of state auditors data sharing interlocal. Josh?
Good morning. In our work with the state auditor's office to do their annual audits and things like that, they're required by statute to have an interlocal agreement defining how data gets shared between the two agencies. And previous one had been adopted and is expiring. And so this one will keep us being able to share data starting in January 1st. There's no fiscal cost or anything like that. It just lays out terms and conditions.
I'll move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes for approval of the state auditor's data sharing interlocal. We have our consent agenda.
Move approval. Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda passes. We move on to board of reports with the 2023 annual service performance report with Becky.
If I could just kick that off really
Absolutely.
quickly, I just wanted to add a data point. Interesting report we just recently received from the Community Transportation Association of America that's related to our performance. And they rank us 24 out of over 500 agencies as far as passenger trips per capita. So we are performing very well in relationship to our fellow agencies. These include all agencies, including New York City, the large agencies as well as small agencies. So we're 24th out of 510 agencies. So anyhow, just thought that would be a good way to kick off the annual performance report.
Hey, I do have a PowerPoint, short PowerPoint, one slide, a couple slides for each mode just to go over. And I would say the theme of 2023 was just like holding steady and increasing back towards what we were pre-pandemic. You can go to the next slide. Our fixed route ridership in 2023 was 3.5 million, and that was a 21% increase from 2022. And we're at 22 boardings an hour. So we didn't, in 2023, it was just sort of, we stayed the same and we saw some people return. So that was a good sign. We're on trending back. Okay, the next one. So here's the dip from 2019 to 2020 and a little lower in 2021. Then we saw 2022 we went up and again in 2023. So we hope to continue that. For year to date this year, we're up 10%. So a little lower increase, but as we get closer to those numbers, and right now we're working on changes for 2025, which would be our time to we're reevaluating and looking at stuff. This is kind of just holding steady and getting back to normal. Okay, next slide. Paratransit, we had an 11% increase in boardings and right around 3 boardings an hour. So we had a half of the year, in June of this year, we added some paratransit service in Blaine, and so that slowly increased. People don't start riding, the day that it goes out, so that's been increasing. So we'll see that increase in the 2024 numbers more. It just started towards the end of the year to on that. So if you go to the next slide, very similar to fixed route. We dipped down and now we're sort of steadily coming back up. Okay, next slide. Our zone service, which is 1 or 2 days a week to different zones in Whatcom County, we had a 6% increase. It's a very low percentage of our total ridership with just 1,500 bookings. Okay, next slide. And this one was a little bit more flat. It's lower numbers, so it's not as drastic. And I think some of these people riding their only choice, so it wasn't as fluctuating. So we're at 75%, which is similar to all the other modes. Okay, next slide. So then we have van pool. We had a 23% increase, and we're right around 25,000 boardings a year for van pool. And on the next slide, it shows it's been a little bit up or down, and then back up. So a little bit different trend there on the van pool, where it did in 2021. It went up a little bit, and then 2022 down, and then back up. So I think we're flattening out that. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what van pool does for 2024. Okay, next slide. Okay, so that's just a quick overview of all the modes. There wasn't anything terribly like earth-shattering, groundbreaking about this year in the report. It's pretty much just increasing back towards what we were. Any questions from the board? Yes.
So I like this report. No questions about that. This is more about kind of data and benchmarks in general. So Chin, you said that we ranked highly on passenger trips per capita. That's not a number I know we talked about before. They call it passenger trips. I think we would call it boardings.
Yeah, the technical term that they use, unlinked passenger trips. That means just individual trips. It doesn't account for transfers. Okay. Individual trips that are accounted for. So it's about the same.
About the same boardings and per capita, so all these performance numbers, boardings, revenue hours, revenue miles, passenger miles, boardings per hour, passenger miles per hour, passenger miles per boarding, none of them is done per capita. And I think the reason for doing that is you're sort of asking your question, what percentage of the population is benefiting from that? I think that's interesting, and it raises a question in my mind about what sort of benchmarks do we have for performance? And that might be a useful one. It might be useful if we tracked benchmarks across the region or the state or the country. What are those benchmarks? They probably exist and I just don't know them. This might be one of them. And also, you'd want those benchmarks to be to roughly similar service areas. Seattle Metro probably isn't good. Franklin County is probably not very good. So I guess at one point might be nice to talk about benchmarks that we track too. I think we probably do touch on that. I'm just trying to separate it out because none of these are good performance measures, but they're not benchmarks. That's all.
And we're not comparing to other areas.
Right. But it would be good to do that too.
And we can do that. It's not a difficult process. One of the things we've done in the past is compare it against what we call our peers.
Right.
So agencies that might have like a university, because we're a university, kind of much of our ridership is served by Western. So you compare a community that's very similar in characteristics. I always think that comparing them based on their geographic population characteristics is more important than their transit service, because those are the more consistent characteristics. You can change the service, but you can't change those geographic population characteristics. So I think that's something that we could do if it's of interest to the board, or report on that on a regular basis. If you feel that that's an important metric.
I do. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion, but feel free to vote it down. I move that we request the administration to, on its own time schedule and convenience, come back and talk about these comparable measures and benchmarks for the board's consideration.
If I could hop in on that, that's fine. I don't have any problem with that at all. In fact, I was going to piggyback on that. One of the work plan efforts for 25 is developing dashboards to track these things, to be able to enable these discussions in a clearer way with the board, as well as our constituencies and stakeholders and the public. So this is one of the newer ones that, in all honesty, I'm probably stupid for not knowing, but didn't realize that one was there. So I'm actually back at a CTAA conference right now, learning about that. So this is good timing, and it's a interesting one. And to Tim's point, when you look at some of the others in the top 25, one of the interesting things is the university town, whether it's Ames, Iowa, or Davis, California, or some of those that are in that top 25 with us. So there's some real interesting lessons we can learn out of that. So I took it a little bit different, broader than that, but I wanted to let you know that dashboard work. So identifying what those metrics are that the board wants, we will be coming back in 25 to talk about, are those the right metrics in there? And we can certainly add this one to that and report out on that sooner.
I will second Michael's motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So a motion has been made to instruct staff to bring back metrics related to comparable agencies and per capita data.
Yes, and it would also say that, Tim, through the performance, our evaluation guidelines, we have a number of metrics in there too, and we'll add this to those ones we are tracking as well.
And I understand this is benchmarking specifically around our peers. Is my
Yeah, these are internal performance measures. Awesome. I mean, they'll call them external performance measures, dashboard items, benchmarks.
Okay.
Very good. Second quarter.
Okay, so this is just a follow on for that last report. Nothing really significantly new to add as far as the data goes. Becky mentioned, recovery mode, the second page of that. I'll get back to the first page after this, just to kind of follow up on the data side of things. But you'll see in the graphs, the colored graphs, you'll see the increases in the first and second quarter over last year. And it's 9 to 13%, depending on the quarter. But we're in recovery mode, looking pretty good so far, with all modes, particularly the fixed route modes, much better. We're continuing to increase in performance. So I'm happy to answer questions about that. But just getting back to the first page, accomplishments. I won't read all of these to you, but just know there was a lot accomplished, some very exciting things, such as the Transit Access Fund ribbon cutting event that we had in Nooksack and Columbia Transit. And then I think the other things I wanted to highlight here is our partnership opportunities. So we're doing some of these special event services that we're calling them, and partnering with our local agencies to provide service upon their request. So we did an opportunity council for Veterans Day service, ski to sea. This is something we do every year, but again, that's a partnership opportunity for WTA. We're also helping, I think we helped with Birch Bay event a couple weekends ago. So we continue to help out in different ways beyond just our regular fixed route service. And then I guess the other thing I've mentioned is the installation of Cordata Station chargers is a milestone for us. We've been that's a project that's been on our list for many years, and now installed and ready to accept buses. So with that, happy to answer any questions right now.
Can I ask a question? You were mentioning the Birch Bay. You had a shuttle between Blaine and Birch Bay. Was that fairly well attended for the service? Do you know?
Yes, and Eric could maybe clarify this, but what I recall from the data was one day we had 60 boardings. I think that was a Saturday, and then Sunday I think it was 20. Eric, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe 20 was the Sunday boardings.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we will move to second quarter financial report from Shonda.
Okay, great, thank you. So there is a discussion in the beginning of that. It'll just summarize that all revenues are a little bit below budget except for operating grants. And we did draw down the Move Ahead Washington funds early. We were encouraged to draw them before November. So we did. We are meeting our target ratios that are presented in here. And then Linda in our division did a really great job of updating the tables and the charts. So Michael, we can talk about if those meet what you're looking for. Most expenditure categories are all above 2023. And we did get the May receipts in July. Those were 1% below last year. So we're 6% under budget for the year, and Excel's forecasting us to be 8% under budget in sales tax. So we are going to bring a budget amendment back to the board in September that will have July receipts, and then we will see if we need to adjust the budget. I think he probably does. On a good side, we have still strong cash position, about $57 million in the bank, mostly due to that drawdown of the operating grants. But we do have expected about 60 plus vehicles to come in, and I'm hoping they'll be delivered and paid for this year. So that'll be a bit of a hit to our cash. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on the financial performance. Okay, let's move on in the interest of time. All right, next are our budget guidelines. So we are sort of knee deep in the 2025 budget right now, and this is a lot of information. So I'll let you just read it on your own and digest that. What we are doing now is we've developed the base budget for 25, and we had about 35 proposals of things to include in the budget for next year. We've decided on about 9. And the next 2 Tuesdays, we're going to go through the rest of them. So they're a combination of staffing, a potential expansion of the waterfront service, and a number of other items. We will be reviewing those, layering them into the budget, and then the board's first reading of the budget will be on October 3rd. So that will be a summary of everything that we've added to the budget, what our proposed initiatives are, and we'll talk about our philosophy on prioritizing and things that we did include and did not include. You will see 2 budgets, one with Move Ahead Washington funds and one without, if Initiative 2117 passes. We want to give you options to include things, and we will be proposing items that may potentially need to be cut if that initiative does pass. The goal is to have the budget approved in November, but we have plenty of time to talk about it. I know it will be a topic of discussion, kind of similar to when we had negotiations last time and we presented a couple of different budgets. So we want to just make sure that the board feels informed and you're understanding what our philosophy is. Les, did you want to add anything?
I'd just say the budget guidance was a way for the board to see how we were philosophically addressing or approaching the budget. So when you see the results of that, you can understand how and why we were trying to prioritize, and then you can course correct us if you would like to. But just trying to be transparent on how that was developed.
Any questions for Shonda at this moment? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other business before the board? Seeing none, any announcements? I'll just say I was at the Senior Day in the Park last Wednesday, and there was over 1,500 attendees. The year previous was 1,000, so it's continuing to grow. There was over 100 resource vendors, and WTA's partnership in having a booth and talking about service, as well as providing service from the senior centers to the event, was just hugely appreciated, and everyone just really appreciated it. And it was a great day and a great event. So thank you so much.
Before you close, I would like to say something, but I'm just gonna wait till you get it before I say it.
Just one more thing, yeah.
Well, I want to thank you all for having this meeting, and y'all are really hard working. I try to catch your Zoom meeting, the regular board meeting every month. And everybody says what a great system we have. WTA is wonderful and affordable. I have my monthly bus pass. And this next March, I turn 75 and I get to ride for free. I hope it doesn't hurt your budget. And so we're really lucky. And I just hope that the election doesn't go the wrong way and the world falls apart. And I hope I can still get my free bus pass. I hope it still will get. Good Lord willing, and the creek don't rise.
Oh, Lord.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you so much. With no other business, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you so much for attending.